All right, I want to thank everyone for joining us for our purchasing webinar. We're just going to kind of go over the new features we've added for the purchasing solution in QuoteWerks. So we've expanded it greatly over the last few releases, so we thought it was important to take some time and kind of cover all of that. We will be recording this webinar and posting it on the website once we've completed it today. So we'll send out an email blast with a link to that, and it'll be available on the website as well, probably in the next few days or so. So the first thing we're going to do is just kind of go over a brief PowerPoint of some of the new features and just some of the features available in the purchasing in QuoteWerks. Because, like I said, we have expanded this functionality greatly. So we have added a bunch of new features, added some more functionality to it. So it's become really a complete solution, something that a lot of you would probably be very beneficial for. So the first thing, we're going to do the short PowerPoint. Then we have some workflow diagrams for you so you can kind of review those. And then I'll show you some of the resources on the website that you can take a look at. We have some videos. We have our online help file, which has a lot of information on kind of how to set it up. We also have some licensing questions that we can answer for you as well, because there are specific types of licenses for QuoteWerks in order to use everything that I'm going to show you here today. And we'll include that in the email that we send out as well, the follow-up email to this, but I'll show you where you can find that. So if you want to see if you have the available licensing to see all these features or use all these features, we'll make sure we cover that today as well. So again, my name is Brandon Grant. I'm the Marketing Director here at QuoteWerks. So the purchasing solution has been completely revamped and expanded to include PO support now for Autotask, ConnectWise, QuickBooks, and Sage 50, formerly known as Peachtree. So if you're using one or multiple of those software solutions, you'll be able to actually create a purchase order from QuoteWerks into one of those softwares. We also enhanced our distributor integrations. We can actually retrieve real-time availability, real-time tracking information from the distributors of Tech Data, Ingram Micro, Synex, and D&H. We also have the ability to import purchase orders from Tech Data. So if you had placed an order from Tech Data's website, you can now import that into QuoteWerks and get the real-time tracking information from that. We also have the ability to mark items as received in ConnectWise. For any purchase orders that you've already created in ConnectWise, you can actually put in your ConnectWise purchase order number. We'll be able to update that information from QuoteWerks so you can actually mark things as received. So some pretty cool functionality that we've added. And then you'll see here this last one, the licensing. This will require the professional or the corporate edition of QuoteWerks. The professional edition will give you the access to be able to create the purchase order in like QuickBooks or Sage 50, where the corporate edition is going to include a lot more functionality where you'll be able to actually get that order tracking information, mark those items as received, things like that. So like I said, we'll go through and we'll make sure that we cover kind of all the bases and which licensing you would need for the certain functionality that we have available. So the PSA integration's been updated to include purchase orders inside of Autotask and ConnectWise. So we can actually create a purchase order from QuoteWerks and send that information into Autotask or ConnectWise, whichever one you're using. We can also mark those items as received from QuoteWerks as well. So you'll actually be able to update that information and view that in one of those PSA software solutions, whichever one you're using. Furthermore, we've added that functionality for QuickBooks and Sage 50 as well, so that if you're using QuickBooks for your purchase orders or Sage 50 for your purchase orders, we'll be able to write those items into those purchase order documents for those accounting softwares now. We also have the ability to receive the items in QuickBooks purchase orders, so we can create those item receipt documents in QuickBooks, so you'll be able to track that information. It's not available in Sage 50 yet, but it is something we're looking to add. Our distributor integration, we enhanced the order tracking information, so now you're going to get real-time tracking from Tech Data, Ingram Micro, and Synex and D&H. So if you place any orders through QuoteWerks using our online ordering, we'll actually be able to get real-time tracking, so you can see if it's shipped, tracking numbers, serial numbers, all that information, and we'll go over where all that is actually going to show up. Additionally, you're going to be able to create a PO after each order. So if you do create the order through QuoteWerks, we will create a purchase order for you that can then be submitted to one of your software solutions, whether it's your PSA or accounting software. We'll be able to send that information out for you. And then we're also going to be able to pull that additional information from tech data. So if you are using tech data to send out some of your orders through their website, we'll be able to actually import that information through QuoteWerks, and you can then get tracking information as well. Our purchasing and receiving, this is where we really expanded a lot of the functionality, is that you're on that purchase orders tab in QuoteWerks, you're going to be able to mark those items as received, which can then update your AutoTask, ConnectWise, or QuickBooks purchase order documents. We'll be able to add serial numbers manually. So if you receive the serial numbers or you're using some other type of ordering system but you want to track that information through QuoteWerks, you can actually add those serial numbers manually into QuoteWerks, so it makes it very easy to just kind of compile that list and just keep track of all that information. And again, we'll go through so you can kind of see how all that works. But we'll be able to copy that information out to your clipboard. So if you need to email it to your customer, if they want to see a copy of all their serial numbers, or if you just want to email the tracking numbers to your customers, you'll be able to do that as well. So with that said, what we've done now is kind of expanded our QuoteWerks workflow where we can do more of the purchasing side of things. So typically, you're still going to start your document the same way. You select your contact in QuoteWerks, whether you're pulling it from one of the CRMs or PSAs that we work with, or you're adding it manually. We would then select our products and services and build that document in QuoteWerks. We can then deliver that document to the customer. If you're using QuoteValet, it'll be obviously an electronic document. If you're just emailing them the PDF, you'll just continue to deliver the document that way. Once the customer has accepted and or makes payment on the document, you can then move to the next phase, which would be the ordering of the document. So before that happens, what we'll do is we'll actually update your opportunity that we created as either closer one in one of the CRM or PSAs that we support. After that, you'll be able to, since that document in QuoteWerks has now been converted to an order, and this is a pretty important step, because if a document is not converted to an order in QuoteWerks, it won't show up in your purchasing window in QuoteWerks. So you need to make sure that when you do convert the quote to an order, that is actually happening in QuoteWerks so that you can send this information over. But when we do that, we'll have the option to resource that product information. So if you need to check stock, or maybe your pricing has changed, or maybe the item is no longer available from that vendor, you can actually switch vendors or place the order from that selected vendor if everything looks fine there. Then you can actually go through and place the order. We can then create the purchase order automatically for you. And then we'll have that tracking information that's available. So we'll go through this whole step so you can see it. We'll start at once the customer has essentially accepted the document, and we'll show you how to move on from there. One thing we always like to mention is QuoteValet Web. A lot of you are using QuoteValet and may not even know that you have this available to you, but the QuoteValet Web is available to anyone with a QuoteValet subscription. If you don't have QuoteValet and you want to try it out, just let us know. We'd be happy to set you up with a trial. But QuoteValet Web is a reporting engine for all QuoteValet documents, so this will include any information you've sent today or this week. You can actually have the executive dashboard, which would be a management view side of things. We'll show you how many quotes have been sent, how many have been accepted. You can even run a comparative analysis on your reps to see which reps have sent out the most quotes for this week or this month. That information will all be available for you. So really nice tool. There is a My Summary, which would be more the sales rep focus, so that your sales reps can actually see where they stand on their own documents and kind of get tracking information on their documents from their customers. We also do have the status board, which is great for any kind of internal sales staff. So if you want to kind of like put it up on a monitor or TV where your reps can actually see what's going on with all the documents. Very useful if you have reps in and out of the office and you have other users kind of helping out with their documents. You'll be able to track that information and make sure that all the quotes and orders are being processed properly in a timely fashion. Then you're also going to have some of the other features where you can find or locate documents in QuoteWerks or QuoteValet Web from QuoteValet. You'll also have your inbox, which would be the QuoteValet inbox, so it'll show you any of your notifications. So first views, customer posts a comment, acceptance ones, orders, all that information, as well as peer reviews and approvals can be done through there as well. This is going to be the Purchase Orders tab. We're going to go over a lot of this information today, but just wanted to kind of highlight some of the information so you can kind of get used to what it looks like, and you can see we do have our tracking number information and our serial numbers there, so that is available to you, and you can make those, post that information in there. You can add it manually, or if it's coming from the distributors, that information will be populated for you automatically. just a larger screenshot of our status board. So again, if you're posting this information in like a bullpen area for your reps, they can actually see kind of what's going on with all the documents. Makes it very easy to track it. Also good for management to kind of see, how many quotes are coming in, which ones are being ordered, that kind of information. Shopping cart page also included with your Quote Valet subscription. So if you're looking for an easy way to place orders online, you can do that through the shopping cart page. And then last thing we wanted to discuss are our website resources, which we're going to jump over to the website quickly just to show you guys a few things. But we do have videos for placing the electronic orders for procurement tracking, and then also other QuoteWerks-centric videos, so on specific features that are available. We do have our own online help file, which will include the information on how to set up the purchasing in QuoteWerks, kind of what you need, and kind of how to use it as well. It is searchable by keyword, and there is an index. I do see we have a question from Kirsten. She's asking if it's possible to use the ordering system with a credit card as opposed to net terms. Yes, for tech data currently, you can use a credit card if you have a credit card on file. For Ingram Micro, Cinex, and D&H, it will be just terms. It is something we're looking at expanding. We have a really great relationship with Tech Data, so we're able to add that functionality. So we are looking to expand that to the other distributors that we support as well. But currently, it's only Tech Data, but we are looking to expand that. If you guys are going to any events, feel free to stop by. If you have an event that you think we'd be a good fit at, let us know. We'd be more than happy to take a look and see if it's something that would fit into our schedule. We're always looking for new events to go to. So if you're going to be at any of the ASCII events, make sure you stop by. If you're going to be at IT Nation here in Orlando, again, make sure you stop by and say hello to us. Definitely feel free to connect with us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter. You can see all our videos on YouTube. Even the webinar videos will be posted there. We do have a group in LinkedIn, so definitely connect with us there. And then we do have our QuoteWerks forums on the website. So if you have questions or you just want to kind of connect with other QuoteWerks users, forums is a great place with that, and you can kind of share information with other QuoteWerks users, kind of best practice information, layouts, all sorts of stuff there. So a really good place to locate that information. Just looking at a couple questions that are coming in here. Michael, I see your question about sliding discounts. I'm not quite sure. I understand what you mean. But if you can send us an email or just send over your contact information, I'll have someone reach out to you, and we can make sure we get your question answered. So let's go ahead and let's go to the website first. So the first thing I want to show you guys is on our website. If you do need help getting to the help file, the online help file, that is available in QuoteWerks under the help menu. We have changed from the PDF manual to the online help system, so just want to make sure you're aware of that. But you can get to it on the website as well under our support. If you simply click on the support icon or the support menu option, that will bring you to the support page. And once you get there, you can actually load the support help file from that page. So you'll actually be able to get there. It's, again, searchable by keyword, searchable by chapter. So Chapter 19 will be the purchasing one, so if you're interested in looking at that, you'll be able to see that information. We also have on the website our, let's see here, our licensing requirements for the distributor or for the order tracking information, so you can see that's available. I think I'm having internet issues. I'm still connected, I believe. Here we go. I think you guys are catching back up to me. Just having a little internet outage here, but I think we're okay. I think we're catching up. So that information is on the website, but again, we'll include that in the email link so you guys can see which ones you need and what licensing you need for the information that's available. And I'm just reading another question here. I have one from Betty who's asking, Betty, I'm not sure I understand your question completely. You can actually order with the other vendors as well, and you can create multiple purchase orders. Yeah, if you can send over a little more information or just email us your contact info, we'll have someone follow up with you to make sure we answer all your questions. So let's go ahead and let's get into QuoteWerks. So the first thing we're going to do is let's start with an existing quote. So I got one ready for us. So we're going to pretend that this quote here that we created for a customer, we delivered to them, went through, the customer says, okay, you know what, everything looks great, let's go ahead and move forward. So the first thing you need to do with any quote that you want to place an order for through our purchasing solution is going to be, you need to convert it to an order. That's done very simply by clicking on File and then Convert to Order. So that's going to be very easy to do. If you're using Quote Valet, when your customer accepts the quote, Quote Valet will actually want to convert that to an order for you automatically. But this is how you can do it manually. Either way, it's going to bring up the exact same window, which is going to be this Convert this quote to an order window here, and then you can simply hit OK. If you have any optional items selected, it'll ask you if you want to remove them. It also asks you if you want to delete any of the revisions. So you'll be able to do that here. You'll be able to convert that to an order, so that's going to be the first step. Now, one thing you'll want to make sure is that you have your purchase order integration selected. So like I said before, we can create POs for QuickBooks, Sage 50, AutoTask, and ConnectWise. So depending on which one you're using, you'll want to make sure you set that up first. You can do this under Tools, Options, and then let's click on our Accounting tab here. And whether you're using the QuickBooks or Sage 50 for accounting, that's not really important. What's important is going to be for your purchase order integration. So you'll actually see there's a box that says Purchase Order Integration. And for the demonstration today, we're going to go ahead and do QuickBooks. But you can see if you click on the drop-down, you can choose QuickBooks, Peachtree, which is Sage 50, ConnectWise, or AutoTask. So one of those four, if you set that here, you'll be able to create that purchase order in those systems. Now, if you're not creating or not using those particular packages, or you just don't want to create the purchase order from QuoteWerks into those, you can set it as none, and that'll still let you create the purchase order in QuoteWerks, so you can still track that information. It just won't write the information into those systems for you automatically. So there's 4 that we integrate with, but 5 selections if you still want the ability to create that manual purchase order. So for our purposes, we're going to go ahead and use QuickBooks today. The integrations are going to work very similar between these systems. You wouldn't really see a difference. So it doesn't really matter what we use for our integration today, but that's just the one that I'm going to use because I have QuickBooks set up on this machine. But if you're using AutoTask or ConnectWise or Sage 50, it's going to work in the exact same way. You won't see a difference in functionality between what we're doing today and what you would be doing if you're using one of those other systems. Steve asked, is it possible to create additional PO integrations via the QuoteWerks API? Steve, yeah, you probably could. I'm not a developer, so I can't give you a definitive answer, but I know there's a lot of companies that have written third-party integrations into QuoteWerks for other software solutions. So I would expect that you would be able to do that since you could export that information out of QuoteWerks. You may want to contact support for more information, kind of like if there's any limitations. But yeah, my initial reaction would be, yes, you should be able to do that. So we need to go ahead and convert this quote to an order. So let's click on our File, Convert to Order. And once that's done, you'll see here, we'll know it's been an order because it's been converted from a quote to an order. It also changes our document number from FLAQ 1260 to FLAO 1260. So now to get to our purchasing screen, you're simply going to click on the purchasing icon. You can also get there under the Tools, Purchasing menu. So either way, you'll be able to get to the purchasing screen. If you have someone in your organization who you would like to remove that functionality from, they don't need access to the purchasing, or you just simply don't want them placing orders or creating purchase orders in QuoteWerks, you can hide that functionality. You can actually go into the user security setting, edit that user's access rights, and remove the menu option for purchasing so that they wouldn't have access to it. They could still do everything else in QuoteWerks as is. They just wouldn't have access to the purchasing. So I know that's a question that comes up on a pretty regular basis. So this purchasing window will appear here, and then this is where you can start to build your purchase order and place orders from QuoteWerks. So the first thing, typically you're going to choose you're going to go top down, left to right kind of thing. So you'll select, are you going to work on the currently open order, so the one we just accepted from our customer, or are we going to do multiple orders? For this presentation, we're going to go ahead and do the currently open order, and then we can sort it by vendor. So again, we're going to start at the top and then move down and then go from left to right. So we're going to select our vendor. So we'll go ahead and we'll do tech data, and then we could select our customer. You can see it's grayed out because we only have the one customer on our currently open order, so we don't need to select it. If you were using ConnectWise, you could actually do a search by ticket number, so that would be available for you. So if you had created a ticket from QuoteWerks into ConnectWise, that information will actually flow through here, and you can search by that ticket number. You can also change the item scope if they're non-purchase, purchase, or all items. So again, these are non-purchased items, so that's where we're going to filter by. So we have our 3 items here, and you can click on the Select All button, the Deselect All, and then you can also copy this out to the clipboard. So if you needed this information maybe you wanted to export it out to Excel or something like that, you can copy it to the clipboard, and this will actually let you paste it in Excel if you wanted to. For our purposes, again, we're just going to go ahead and select our items here. Once you select an item, if you want to check pricing and availability, basically resource this information before delivering it to your customer or before placing the order with the vendor, you can check that information here. So from Tech Data, Ingram Micro, Cenex, and D&H, we can resource the product if we need to. So we can do that by clicking on the Utilize Panel button here. And this will actually go out to Utilize and let us get our pricing and availability before we place the order with the distributors. So we had originally sourced this from Tech Data, and we can make sure that Tech Data still has it in stock, which they do, before placing the order or before getting ready to place the order with the vendor. So it makes it very easy to make sure that the item is in stock or it's from in your preferred warehouse before you actually get ready to place the order. And again, that's just going to be this Utilize Panel button right here. And then we do have a question from Kristen asking if there's a way to take off orders that were created twice. You can delete an order, Kristen, if you'd like. On the purchase order screen, there is an option to delete purchase orders. So if you, we'll get there in a minute, but when you click on the purchase orders tab, if you right-click, there is an option to delete. If you don't see that functionality available, then you just need to update to the latest version of QuoteWerks because you may just be running an older version. So once you have your items selected, you'll see once you select one or multiple items, down at the bottom, your free shipping minimum is going to show up. So this is saying, okay, I need to add $973 before we can get to our free shipping minimum. So the first thing is, okay, how do we set that in QuoteWerks? So we're actually going to take a step backwards. We're going to close out of here, and we're going to go back to our QuoteWerks screen, and we're going to click on Utilities, Vendor Maintenance. And this is where we can actually set up our shipping minimum for users. Now, if you're not on the latest version of QuoteWerks, this functionality won't be available for you. So if you're going into your installation right now and you're editing it and you're saying, okay, well, my free shipping minimum field isn't there, just need to update to the latest version of QuoteWerks from the website. So you should be, once you do that, you'll be able to see this functionality is going to be available. So again, this is going to be under Utilities, Vendor Maintenance, and you'll simply add your vendor if you don't have them in here, and then edit them, and then you just put in your free shipping minimum. So you're saying, okay, I need to get to $1,000 for this particular order before I get my free shipping. And then once you start adding items to your document in QuoteWerks, so if we go back to our purchasing model, our module here, and then we click on, go ahead and center this, and let's select our vendor for Tech Data. And then as I start selecting items for Tech Data, it'll let me know, hey, you need to get to $973 for free shipping. This one's not going to quite get there, but at least it lets me know, hey, if I added another item for $183, I'd get to that free shipping minimum. So once you've selected your items, I see a lot of questions rolling in, so I will try to answer as many as possible. If I don't get to your question, I do apologize. I'll try to take some time at the end to go back and answer any questions that I didn't get to. I'll try to answer as many as I can as we're kind of going through things. If I don't get to your question, send us your contact information, and we'll make sure to follow up with you and get everything answered about the questions you had during this presentation. So we'll go ahead and we're going to select our items to place the online order. Now, if you're placing your order for a distributor we don't support, this place online order down in the bottom right corner, that just won't be available. You'll be able to create the PO for that specific vendor, just won't be able to place the online order. So the online order is going to create it for Ingram Micro, Tech Data, Synex, and D&H. Those are the 4 vendors that we support for online ordering. So let's go ahead and click on that. And this will bring up your order screen, and this is where you can set some information. So you can put your purchase order description. So this is for you to kind of reference internally in QuoteWerks. You can set the pricing type. This is where we had that question earlier about if you have a credit card on file, can you tell them to use that instead? This is where you would make that selection. It's going to be on this submitting order screen. You'll see there is a shipping option, an end user option, and then we even do integrate with the My Order Tracker. There is an option for back order handling. I think I saw a question about back ordering. You can actually choose the back order option. So if you want them to ship as it becomes available, or if you just want to ship the order complete, you can select that. And then you can actually go through and verify the current pricing and availability. So it'll check pricing again. It'll validate the order and submit order. You'll see there is an option for special instructions. So if you have negotiated pricing with your vendors, you can put that information in here. You can reference the quote number that they had sent to you. You can put that information here, or like C quote number or whatever. And then that information will actually flag the order in the ordering system with your vendor, so they know not to process the order until they've reviewed it. And that's why it's best just to put the quote number in there, their internal quote number, so that they can see, oh, this is a quote number, it's negotiated pricing, and then they'll process it that way. So I think that's an information to be set up as, or some information that, or a couple questions we had about that as well. Alex is asking if there's a way to add vendors other than manually through the, I think what you mean is the vendor maintenance. There's not, Alex, you do need to set up your vendors under the vendor maintenance. You'll need to, each database that an item is pulled from is going to pull the vendor information, so you'll want to make sure you set it up under the vendor maintenance. That's really where all your vendors need to be set up in QuoteWerks, is under utilities and vendor maintenance. So I'm not going to go any farther here just because this is live and this would actually submit an order to Tech Data. So we don't actually want to place this order with Tech Data. So we're going to go ahead and skip this step. But the rest of it's pretty straightforward, where you would just follow the steps of verify the current pricing availability, validate the order, and then submit the order. So we'll go ahead and we'll cancel it out of there. So let's go ahead, and now we have the option to create the PO. So if we were using another vendor, or if you just wanted to create the purchase order, this is your option here where you can actually click on Create PO. And then it's just going to let you know if we do support electronic ordering. It'll say, hey, we do support electronically for this vendor, Tech Data. Are you sure you want to create this PO? Because we're not going to order it if you do it this way. So we're just going to go ahead and say yes. So now we have the option to submit our purchase order. So we're going to create the PO in QuickBooks. Now, if you want to use the QuickBooks generated PO number for all of you QuickBooks users, then you can leave this blank. If you want to put in a manual number here, you can do that as well. If you want to use the next number order in sequence, you can do that as well. So it's going to be up to you what you want to set that as. The rest of this information is going to be pretty up. It's going to be up to you what you want to set there. The PO date. Typically, you're going to use the date that you're creating the purchase order, but you do have the option of selecting a different one. In the reference ID field here, you could use this for like a job number or like a ticket number to kind of group the purchase orders together. Useful if you're kind of keeping track of that information, or if you're going to be referencing that later, you can use that information there. Flooring account, this is typically used for like orders with like Ingram Micro, D&H, Synex, and Tech Data. You can put that information in there. And then the description could be just a description of the purchase order, so you know what this customer ordered or what these items are for. And then this is where it's going to be just a little different for the other users. If you're using Autotask, ConnectWise, or Sage 50 for your purchase orders, instead of saying export to QuickBooks, it'll simply say export to whichever system you're using. If you're not using one of those, if we went back and we had set our purchase order integration to none, then this would just be blank and there'd be nothing here. But again, that'll still create that purchase order in QuoteWorks so that it'll show up on our purchase orders tab. Now this is important because If you don't set a PO number here, if you're not using one of the softwares that we integrate to create the purchase order and you leave this blank, it will flag it and say, hey, you need to create a purchase order number. So you just need to make sure that if you're not using QuickBooks or Sage 50 or ConnectWise or Autotask, that you do set a purchase order number here. So we're going to go ahead and leave ours blank because we want to use the QuickBooks generated one. Actually, let's go ahead and we'll set one for it here. So we'll go ahead and hit OK. So now it's going to go ahead and create our items in QuickBooks. And then it's going to let us know, hey, we created our QuickBooks PO number of 14-1056. So we can hit OK. And you can see the items no longer appear on our purchasing screen. That's because we've set our vendor to tech data as well as our item scope as non-purchased items. If we go back and we set it to purchased items, we can actually view that. Or if you click on the drop down here, you'll see it's going to be last exported PO. So you can see that information. I have a question about can you control the prefixes or the numbering sequence of the PO numbers? Yes, you can. That will actually be something that you can change. In QuoteWerks, if you click on Tools, Options, and I believe it's the Installation tab, you can actually set your purchase order numbering sequence there. So you can actually adjust that information. You're not going to be able to change all of it, but you can change enough of it to kind of get to familiar. If you're using QuickBooks for your purchase orders, like I said, if you just leave it blank, it'll just use the next QuickBooks purchase order number that's available. We do have a question if someone's asking how's the PO look in QuickBooks. It looks just like if you had created it manually in QuickBooks. It's going to look the exact same way. That's how the integration is going to work. And then also, if we're going to create the item in QuickBooks, yes, we'll create the inventory item in QuickBooks as well because we do want to be able to mark it as received. So let's go ahead and go to our Purchase Orders tab. So far, everything that we've done would be very similar to what happens in really any of the integrations. So if you need to send this information to Autotask or ConnectWise, Sage 50, QuickBooks, everything we've done so far is going to be the exact same. So let's click on our Purchase Orders. So now our Purchase Orders tab, you can see here, it's going to default to Dates of All, and it's going to have all your documents here. So we're going to go ahead and kind of filter this down. So I know I've only created one today, so it's going to make it very simple, where I'm going to click on Dates and select Today. Betty has a great question. She's asking if she has one order with 3 vendors, how do I separate POs for each one? By default, Betty, to create a purchase order from QuoteWerks, you will actually have to separate it by vendor automatically. So if you remember on that Purchasing tab here, it'll actually let you select the vendor. So it'll already have it broken down by vendor for you, and then you'll submit the order based on vendor. This does 2 things. Make sure that your purchase order is created correctly for each vendor, but it would also let you batch orders for the same vendor in QuoteWerks. So if you had multiple orders that you're kind of holding on for that free shipping, or just to create one purchase order for that specific vendor, you'd be able to do that there. So it is going to break it out by vendor automatically for you. If you don't select a vendor, it will actually prompt you saying, hey, you need to select a vendor before we can create that purchase order. And Marle's question about what if you aren't going to order from that, hold on, let me read this one more time. What if you aren't going to order from the vendor that is on the QuoteWerks quote? So if you're going to source it from another vendor, you would need to change that vendor in the order document in order for us to create the purchase order. So if you had originally quoted it for vendor A, and now you're going to actually be sourcing it from vendor B, that's fine. You just need to switch the vendor in the order document, and then QuoteWerks will create the select purchase order for you. So let's go back to our Purchase Orders tab. And so we have our document here. So it's already sourced by the vendor, since we only had one vendor on this particular purchase order so far, so this one here. And you can see it was submitted, fulfillment status is not received. So now if we had placed this order with Tech Data or one of the other distributors online, you would actually be able to get the real-time tracking information by clicking on this icon here. So this one in the top left will actually give you your real-time tracking. So now you do have to have the real-time module in order to do that in QuoteWerks. So if you're looking for that and you don't see that availability, that just means you don't have the real-time module in QuoteWerks. So you probably just have the corporate edition. So if you want that functionality, you'll obviously need the real-time Furthermore, you wouldn't be able to place the online order without the real-time functionality anyway. So once that information has pulled into your quote, it'll actually show you the status of that document or that particular line item in the document. It'll show you your status, the quantity on hand, the quantity back ordered, the quantity that's shipped, and the quantity that's received. It'll let you know the ship via, which warehouse, the estimated shipping date, and then what date it was actually shipped on. Now you'll see here we have our add tracking number and add serial number. This information would automatically populate as well once it has been updated by that specific vendor. If you're doing a manual order with one of the vendors that we don't support, or maybe you just did what I did where you're creating that manual purchase order, not the electronic order through QuoteWerks, you can add this information manually. So if you wanted to add the tracking number, you can simply select the shipping carrier. So we'll say standard overnight. And then you can put in their tracking number. So let's go ahead and we'll just add a couple numbers in there for our tracking number. And then you'll see there's an option to copy it. So if you need to copy those tracking numbers, you can. This makes it very easy if you want to send this information to your customer. Maybe your customer is calling in saying, hey, we want to know the status of our particular document, of our particular items. Can you give us the tracking numbers? Instead of having to go through and say, okay, let me select this and read it, you can simply right-click and click on email tracking numbers, and it'll bring up an email window in QuoteWerks and actually let you know, hey, this particular item is FedEx standard overnight, and there's the tracking number. So if you are putting in the tracking numbers manually and you're going to use this functionality, just make sure that you are putting in the tracking number correctly, because obviously if you're going to email it out, we're just going to pull that information. If it's coming automatically from the distributors, then it should already be correct and you shouldn't have to worry about it. So again, if you want to email that to your customer, very simple. You're simply going to right-click and choose email tracking number. If you want to add the serial numbers manually as well, we can actually click add serial, and then you can put in the serial number. So if you had received the serial number from the vendor, or you know from your vendor what the serial number is going to be, you can put that information here as well, and that'll be added to the item. Now, a lot of times you'll have this information, and maybe there's something you want to do with it. You want to send it to the customer. You want to update ConnectWise or AutoTask with the serial number information. You want to put that information somewhere. You can do two things. The first is you can, if you right-click, there's an option for Copy Special. Copy Special will actually take that information, and I have, go ahead and open up Notepad here. Copy Special will actually copy the manufacturer part number and the serial number for you for that part number, so that you could put it in a Notepad file like this, or a Word document, or some type of file where you could send this to your customer if they were requesting it, or if you just needed it for your own records. A lot of times, we have a lot of users who have been requesting to be able to get this information out of QuoteWerks, so this is an easy way to do it. So you can actually go through your different line items, and you can right-click, Copy Special, right-click, Copy Special, and copy that information to your clipboard, and then you can send that information off to your customer. If you look over to the right here, let me just expand this a little bit, you'll see in the top right it actually shows us if the item has been exported to QuickBooks. So if you have a little QuickBooks icon, or if you're using AutoTask, it'll say AT, ConnectWise, CW, and then Peachtree will be PT or Sage 50. You'll have that information there, and it'll have that little L. That means it's linked. So that means that we did actually create that purchase order from QuoteWerks. So it's very easy to look at something and see if it was a manual purchase order or if it was created in QuickBooks. So again, it's just a little more tracking information for you to kind of make it easier for you to stay on top of those types of things. Kristen is asking, what if the right-click doesn't work? Kristen, if the right-click doesn't work, go ahead and call tech support or email them and let them know, because that functionality should always be available. So if for some reason it's not working, just let us know. There might just be something like, could be really anything that could be just blocking that from enabling you to copy that information to your clipboard. So once you've created the purchase order, now if you want to mark those items as received, this is going to be where you can do that in QuoteWerks. So you'll actually see, very simple, it says it's asking you if it's received, and it's simply saying 0 out of 1, or this one is received. So if you're manually receiving items, you can click here. If it's been received by the customer through Tech Data, Ingram Micro, Synnex D&H, if you had electronically submitted it, then that'll also be updated automatically here as well, so you won't have to mark them as received. But again, this is for any kind of manual orders. You can manually update these. This is where, when you click Receive, it'll actually ask you the serial number you'd like to receive, and you can hit OK. And then you can put in the location, asset tag, and MAC address information. And when you hit OK, it'll let you know that now this item has shipped and it's been received. And you'll actually see here, one item has received to, excuse me, in QuickBooks, and so that information's been updated. And then if you click here, you can view the receiving information. So you can actually see who received it. So if you're ever having an issue where someone said, oh, the system did it, or someone else did it, you can actually see who it was received by, and that's going to be the login information in QuoteWerks, so who actually marked it as received from there. Again, I'm sorry if I'm missing your questions. I have a bunch of them rolling in, so I am trying to answer as many as possible and to keep this going. Let me look here. Virginia, that's a good question. If you receive the PO in QuickBooks, will it populate in QuoteWerks? No, we're not going to go backwards from there. That is something we're looking at adding, but at this point, it's just going to be, if you mark it as received in QuoteWorks, we'll actually update it in QuickBooks as received for you, but not the other way. Again, it's new functionality, so we're starting there, but that's something we're looking to add. Marley, that's a good question. Marley's asking, they have an internal charge for like a license processing fee or something similar like that, where it's like an internal charge that they add to their quotes. Honestly, it's up to you if you want it to be included as part of like your purchase orders. Anything on your documents, on your quotes, that when you convert it to an order, it's going to show up under that purchasing screen by vendor. So if you created a database of those items, maybe those internal charges, and you call them internal charges or something similar like that, it'll actually show up here under your vendor, whichever vendor you selected. So you can see here I have 3 items that didn't have a vendor selected, and they would show up here. So you don't necessarily have to do anything with these because maybe they're your internal ones, or if you want to create POs for them, you can, because maybe you do want to mark them as received, and that's a way you can use it for kind of tracking that it has been done, that maybe there's an installation charge that you charge, and you can just make sure, hey, it has been installed, so you can mark it as received, essentially, if you wanted to. So that's always an option. And just going through a few of these questions. So I'll probably have to come back to some of your questions because, like I said, I just have a bunch rolling in here. So the next thing I want to show you is going to be your Ordered Items tab. This is extremely useful if you're looking for status on a specific item. So maybe your customer had received 4 out of the 5 items they ordered, but they're wondering what's going on with that 5th one. So they give you the part number or the PO number. You can actually track that information here. You can search by that ticket number if you had created it in ConnectWise to see what's going on with it. You can also track by the PO number, your reference ID, or the specific part number, and it'll actually show you that information here. So the Ordered Items tab probably won't be used as much as the purchase orders, but it's a great place to go if you're looking for a very specific item, not necessarily a purchase order that you had submitted to the customer. Like I said, if you're looking, okay, what's up with this item? Where is this item? Has it been shipped? Did we mark it as received, and so it's not showing in here? You can quickly locate that information and pull those items up and check it out. And you'll see it has the same functionality as the Purchase Orders tab, where you'll be able to add the tracking number, add the serial number, mark them as received. So if you do put that information here, you can. This one also is going to include comments. So if you want to add a comment, you can use that as a note saying, hey, went ahead and installed this or delivered it, by, maybe you had it shipped to your warehouse and you're going to go ahead and deliver it because you're going on site there next week. So you can put in there, hey, it came in, so we're going to go ahead and drop it off next week, or we went ahead and reshipped it via UPS or FedEx or whatever. You can put that information here. So it's very easy to add that information and kind of keep everything up to date in QuoteWerks. So let's go back to our purchase orders tab. So there's a couple things wanted to mention here. If you're using ConnectWise for your purchase orders in QuoteWorks, since we will track that ticket information, you'll see there's a ticket number option. If you click on that ticket number, that will actually open up the ticket number in ConnectWise so you can view the status of those items. So when we do receive the items, we will update ConnectWise, AutoTask, and QuickBooks that those items have been received. We'll mark those items, do the receipt items in those three systems. If you're using Sage 50, we don't have that functionality yet, but you can still manually mark it as received, so at least it's marked here in QuoteWorks that the item was received, and then you can go into Sage 50 later and go ahead and update it that way. Al asked a good question. He's asking if tracking numbers transfer to QuickBooks. Not automatically, but that is why we do have the option to right-click, and you can email the tracking number so that you can have it. Or if you do email tracking number, you can actually see you can just copy it out if you wanted to, or you can use the copy functionality here, and that'll copy it to your clipboard. And then you can go ahead and go into QuickBooks and manually paste that information into QuickBooks if you want to track that information in QuickBooks. Let me see here. Amy, I think your question was related to Al's about adding this tracking information. But if you want to put a little more information, because all I can see is that you're asking if we can add the tracking automatically. We do add the tracking number automatically if it's an order placed from Ingram Micro, Tech Data, Synex, or D&H. We do include that there. All right. So again, you can go through here, and if you accept other items, you can put in their serial numbers or receiving them. So if you wanted to continue to update this purchase orders, if you receive more items, you can actually go through and put that information in here, and it'll mark your items as received in QuoteWorks, and then it can actually update the information in QuickBooks as well. So those items will be received for you. All right, so let me go ahead and go back to a couple of the questions that I know that I missed now that we have a little bit of time here. Joey asked if we track stock from here. We're not tracking stock, Joey, for your ConnectWise procurement. We'll just be able to mark the item as basically it has been received or shipped in ConnectWise. Same thing with QuickBooks and AutoTask. But we're not going to keep track of the stock. We're not going to do inventory management, really. For that, we would recommend using, ConnectWise, obviously, that you're using, or if you're using AutoTask or QuickBooks even for your inventory management, that's a good way to go as well. John, yes, we will update. If you receive the item in QuoteWorks, that will update in QuickBooks as well. So if you do mark the item in you mark the item in QuoteWorks rather as received, we'll actually update it in QuickBooks for you so you can see that information. Just bear with me a moment as I'm trying to sort out all these questions here. Okay, so some of these I'm going to need to backtrack a little bit. So that pretty much wraps up the purchasing functionality in QuoteWorks. So essentially, the important things you're going to need to remember is you want to make sure you choose in QuoteWorks your purchase order integration if you're going to use one. If you don't want to use one, but you just want to create those manual purchase orders, you have that option. But you do want to make sure that you select in QuoteWorks under the Tools, Options, Accounting tab which purchase order integration you're going to use, because that will matter. So if you are using AutoTask and ConnectWise for your PSA, but you're going to use QuickBooks or Sage 50 for your accounting and for creating the purchase orders, that's fine. You can do that. You just need to make sure that you mark it in QuoteWerks so that's set. A couple of the items in ConnectWise and AutoTask, you do need to mark it that you do want QuoteWorks to update it, so there is a setting for that. So just want to make sure you check your settings for those integrations. Mike is asking if once the item is received in QuoteWorks and it updates in QuickBooks, do you want to send the invoice from QuickBooks or from QuoteWorks? It's really up to you, Mike. I would probably recommend doing it out of QuickBooks, just because QuickBooks is an accounting program. That's kind of what they're built to do, is to handle those types of transactions. You could do it from QuoteWorks. You could send an invoice document from QuoteWorks, but we typically try to stay away from the accounting side of things. We really are just trying to kind of facilitate the ordering and kind of updating that information. But as far as the invoicing, I would recommend doing it out of QuickBooks, specifically if that's what you're already doing. It'll just make it that much easier for you. Joey has a good question. He's asking what's included with QuoteWorks out of the box and what is an add-on and how much? So out of the box, Joey, you're looking at, depending on the integration type, if you're using ConnectWise or AutoTask, you're going to look at the corporate edition in order to have the integration with those. And then if you want the real-time information, then that would be an add-on along with Utilize to get pricing and availability. If you want, send me your contact information. I'll have one of the sales guys. They can send you over all the information you would need. For everything that I've shown you today, you would want the corporate edition with the real-time module at the very minimum, because that doesn't include the online ordering functionality as well as the ability to do this order tracking information. So you get all that information through those two licenses. Now, if you already own QuoteWorks and you have the professional edition, you'll have access to creating the purchase order in QuickBooks and the purchase order in Sage 50. If you want the order tracking, you'll need to add the real-time module. If you want to place online orders, you'll need to add the real-time module. If you're on the corporate edition, you'll have access to everything except for the online ordering and automatic order tracking through the distributors, because that's just a function of the real-time module. I'll include in the email that we send out, the reminder email for you guys, the link to exactly what license comes with what, so you can quickly see, okay, well, this is what I want. I want to be able to create purchase orders in QuickBooks, and I want to be able to get my online ordering, then what do I need? It'll show you exactly that information. So I'll hang around for a couple of minutes and answer any additional questions for you guys. I'll try to backtrack on some of these as well that I missed. So I want to thank everyone for coming today. And like I said, if you do have questions, feel free to stick around for a few minutes and send them over to me, and I'll try to go through as many as possible. We did record this, so we will post this on the website in the next couple of days. And in that email that we're sending out, we'll make sure to include that link so you guys all get a copy of this as well. So thanks for your time, and yeah, anyone who would like to submit some questions, feel free to do so, and we'll spend some time doing that as well. Al, for freight charges by vendor, I was asking you, where do you record freight charges by vendor? That, if you mean like the shipping minimum, or do you mean the actual charge that the vendor is charging you for shipping? Okay, you would actually have that on your quote in QuoteWorks. Typically, we're going to set the shipping amount in the QuoteWorks document itself. We actually have a shipping. So if we close out of our purchasing window here, you'll see down at the bottom there's actually a shipping option, and you can set your shipping here. We don't have a direct tie-in with the vendors to know what they charge for shipping, but we did add that functionality for basically, hey, if you know your shipping minimum, you can make sure that you're reaching that to get to your free shipping level, or at least be around it, so you have that option. Virginia, you shouldn't have to manually enter the part number in QuickBooks before sending the purchase order over, because we'll create any items in QuickBooks that don't exist. But if you're getting an error message, I'll have one of the tech guys get in touch with you and kind of see what's going on. Because yeah, you should just be able to create that purchase order in QuickBooks, and it shouldn't be any issue. You shouldn't have to mark anything. Ian, there's not a way to automatically use the vendor part number as the manufacturer part number unless you are pulling items from a database, from a distributor database. So if you imported a price list from a distributor, when you do the import, you can map the manufacturer part number to the vendor part number field as well. That's not a problem in QuoteWerks. If you're adding items manually, you'll just have to add the item, the part number, to the vendor part number field also. But as long as you're doing some type of import, you would be able to import the manufacturer part number into the vendor part number field also. Mike, we don't have a diagram yet, but that is actually something that I'm working on. So if you have some ideas, if you want to send an email to sales@quoteworks.com about what would be helpful, send it over. Definitely like to take a look at that, because that is something I'm looking to do, is to, because I have had that request quite a bit, where you could get some kind of like visual, like kind of workflow diagram. So yeah, send over what you would be looking for specifically, and we might be able to get something out for you. Al, your alternate vendors pull-down list in the quote or the order, your vendors are going to be listed on the purchasing screen based on who you have in your order. So like, for instance, this order that we submitted, we had tech data, and then our services vendor, and then our demo database vendor. So when we clicked on purchasing, the vendors that it's going to show us are going to be those 3 vendors. Now it's only going to show me 2 because I already placed the purchase order for the other vendor, tech data, but you can see it breaks it down by demo database and services. So those are the vendors that are available to that particular items here. So that's what's going to show up under your vendor order. So the vendor is going to be specifically based on the vendor you have set here. So you will, again, want to make sure you have them set up under utilities, vendor maintenance. It also pulls from your product database. So when you create a new product database, you'll want to name it whatever your vendor name is. So if it's vendor A, you'll want to make sure it's vendor A and spelled exactly the same way that you want it. Mike, you're asked, you have categories in your item numbers in QuickBooks, and when you search for part numbers in QuickBooks, you can't find it.